In order to use the steel cutting saw blade safely and extend its life, please read the saw blade instruction manual and the power tool instruction manual thoroughly. Use the saw blade with applicable machinery that conforms to the outer diameter of the blade and the rotation speed. Power tools specially created for steel cutting saw blades are already produced by several makers. The steel cutting saw blade should not be used in disc grinders or high-speed abrasive cutting machines. These machines, in addition to not having adequate rotation speed or output for use with steel cutting saw blades, are not equipped with safe covers or functionalities, and they cannot provide sufficient capabilities. For these reasons, they cannot be used safely. When installing or changing a saw blade, always unplug the power tool's power cord from the electrical outlet first. Install the saw blade so that it corresponds to the power tool's direction of rotation, and tighten the flange securely so that it does not come loose. When the saw blade has been mistakenly used in the wrong direction of rotation, not only will it fail to cut, but the tips of the blade will all be damaged. Always be sure that the blade is installed in the correct cutting direction. After installing the saw blade, please give it a practice run, making sure that there are no abnormal sounds or unusual vibrations. For your safety, always wear personal protective equipment. In addition, check your work environment, and do not allow anyone except the operator to approach the equipment while it's in use. The steel cutting saw blade can cut basic mild steel materials. It can also cut composite materials such as wood, plastics, and non-ferrous materials. Completely secure the cutting material. Please take care while cutting, as the operation of the equipment will become unstable when there is rattling or wobbling, which in turn will damage the tips of the blade and the main body of the saw blade. Begin cutting when the power tool has reached a sufficient rotation speed. There is a high risk of damaging the tips of the blade or the main body when starting the power tool while the saw blade is in contact with the cutting material, or when jarring the cutting feed. Feed slowly until the cutting material begins to cut. Then feed the cutting material at the speed which produces the least amount of sparks. In contrast to a cutoff wheel, there is a minimum of sparks and dust, and the saw blade does not leave burns or burrs on the cutting material. In addition, the external diameter of the saw blade does not grind down, which lengthens operating life and substantially raises operating efficiency. As a characteristic feature of the steel cutting saw blade, slowly feeding the cutting material from beginning to end quickens wear to the cutting edge. Feeding the material slowly but forcefully lengthens the life of the blade. Always cut in straight lines. Cutting with a steel cutting saw blade allows high-speed cutting not possible with a cut-off wheel. Cutting nonlinear patterns such as zigzag cutting, rotary shearing, or diagonal cutting are not possible. In addition, when aborting cutting, please disengage the saw blade from the cutting material while it is still spinning. A super hard alloy is used on the cutting edge of the steel cutting saw blade. Therefore, chips may occur while in use, but this poses no hindrance to cutting. The occurrence of moderate chipping serves as good self-sharpening action of tip wear and maintains sharp edges. Continuous cutting causes the saw blade to reach high temperatures, quickly dulling the edge. So take frequent breaks to allow heat to dissipate. Adjust the method of securing the cutting material as appropriate. Minimizing the area of contact between the saw blade and the cutting material raises cutting efficiency, improves sharpness, and extends operating life. Inspect the saw blade prior to each use. Make sure that there is no bending or cracking on the main body of the saw blade, and use your equipment safely. Finally, if the following kinds of problems occur when using the steel cutting saw blade, check the respective points. Short operating life. Applicable to the power tool. Make sure you are using the steel cutting saw blade with an applicable power tool. Cutting material. Make sure that you are not cutting high carbon steel, special alloys, or any material other than basic mild steel. Cutting material clamps. Make sure that the area of contact between the cutting material and the saw blade is a fixed location that is as small as possible. Cutting feed. Make sure that the cutting is occurring slowly throughout the cutting process. The occurrence of chipping. Direction of rotation. Make sure that the direction of rotation of the power tool and saw blade coincide with each other. Clamping the cutting material. Check whether the cutting material is securely clamped in place. Cutting feed. Make sure that you do not jar the cutting feed or feed at an unreasonable pace, and make sure that there is no rattling or wobbling while cutting. To increase the life of the steel cutting saw blade, as well as to use it safely and to raise the efficiency of your cutting work, be sure to fully understand the warnings regarding usage.